Friday, welcome to Frontline. It's 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. Here are the top 5 stories we didn't want you to miss. I thought this was going to be a slow news day. Wrong. President Trump says he's looking to continue sending troops to major cities. Next stops, possibly Chicago and New York.
African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
Make America safe again. Love it. And speaking of the National Guard, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has signed an order authorizing National Guard troops deployed in Washington, D.C. to carry weapons if their mission requires it. Things are getting serious. Hegseth's decision paving the way for another 2,000 troops to mobilize in the nation's capital. Okay, I'm here for this. And effective immediately, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announcing that the U.S. will stop issuing worker visas for commercial truck drivers. This after a California licensed illegal immigrant, his truck allegedly at this point caused a crash that killed 3 people in Florida. But the Federal Reserve Chairman, also too late Jerome Powell, signaled a possible interest rate cut in the near future, sending stocks rocketing today. Let's see what he does in September. Then finally, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 gang member with a history of violence, has been freed from Putnam County, Tennessee jail and returning home to Maryland as he awaits trial on federal human smuggling charges. Oh, all-around great guy. I wonder if Democrats are going to be waiting his door for a margarita and a welcome home party. But first, no one's above the law, right, John Bolton? That's what you said when the feds raided Mar-a-Lago. Let's do this. Okay, look, I realize the Ghislaine Maxwell audio just dropped as well, like right before the show. We're going to get to that in a second, but let's go in chronological order, starting at 6 a.m. this morning. This raid on John Bolton's house and office goes way back, but it all centers around classified information. Now, Bolton's opposition to Trump is just what the media wants you to think about why they did this. Trump was asked about this today.
I haven't spoken to Pam in the group yet, but I will be. I saw that just like everybody else. I try and stay out of that stuff. I'm allowed to be, and I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position. But I purposely don't want to really get involved in it. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually.
Now, if you recall, an investigation was opened by the first Trump administration, both criminal and civil, that Bolton disclosed classified information by writing his book and leaking parts of it before the security review, some of which was TSSCI, top secret secure compartmentalized information, which is like the highest level classification. And a judge actually noted this when the government sought an order to stop the publication. The judge allowed the publication to go forward, but noted defendant John Bolton has gambled with national security of the United States. He has exposed his country to harm and himself to civil and potentially criminal liability. The government has failed to establish that an injunction will prevent irreparable harm because the book has already leaked in parts. Its motion, accordingly, is denied. Okay, let me tell you why this is all important. Let's start with the root of all this, the book and the first Trump impeachment. Remember, they had this character in that guy Vindman who was all huffy-puffy that the president of the United States, commander-in-chief, didn't take his advice on Ukraine. And then it all blew up into this quid pro quo allegation. At the center of it was John Bolton. You see, John Bolton, who left on, let's just say, less than favorable terms, probably had an axe to grind, especially if he was going to make money off of it. Now, he got a $2 million advance book deal to publish this about how much he hated Trump. He sold like 1 million copies pretty much right out of the gate. Now, due to its publicity about whether or not Trump's impeachment had any merit. The book, The Room Where It Happened, don't buy it, I'll give you the high points right now. The whole book centered around, quote, like, I was in the room, I know how bad Trump is, and blah, blah, blah. And during the impeachment, everybody wanted to know if there was actually a quid pro quo. Now, Bolton, being a key witness, did not testify because he wanted to tell his story in his book that he was getting paid for. So to Congress, he cited executive privilege. The book was also simultaneously undergoing a security review from the administration. Look, this is standard. I went through it when I wrote my books. Anybody whose official position or access to classified material has to do this if they're writing about the subject. So Bolton submitted this in December of 2019, but the government didn't even respond till over a month later, which was the basis for him going forward with the publication without approval. In the book, Bolton did allege a quid pro quo with Trump and Ukraine, and the government was trying to block it because those conversations were not only highly classified, but not accurately represented in the book either. So Bolton accused them of dragging their feet on the security review to slow walk it, and then he published it. Fast forward under Biden. Now, the DOJ under Biden dropped the criminal investigation into Bolton, which emboldens Bolton to go even further in his criticism of Trump. Remember, he just went out there on every network spewing hate about Trump. Now, he potentially, though, disclosed even more classified information on private meetings, things that he claimed executive privilege for when the House was trying to get him to testify, mind you. So what was this raid about today? I mean, the book's already out there. It's been out for 5 years. What was the FBI looking for? I mean, they must have had probable cause because a judge had to approve this warrant for something. But under Executive Order 13526, any notes, correspondence, or conversations pertaining to the contents of any meeting where classified materials discussed, those notes are also classified at the same level as the subject of the meeting. Now, the FBI, in part, had reason to believe that Bolton had made significant notes when writing this book, but also other things about the contents of many high classification level meetings in other administrations too, which would also be a violation of the law. And this goes to who John Bolton was before Trump. I'm going to get this one right out of the gate. Okay, John Bolton is a card-carrying member of the swamp, first appointed to run a section of a little agency. You probably heard of this one, USAID. By Ronald Reagan, and I've told you about this before. USAID was originally founded after the failed intel op during the Cold War called the Bay of Pigs in Cuba when we, tried to go in there. USAID was the rebrand to use the guise of foreign aid and assistance for our intelligence communities to overthrow governments, influence their elections, and use propaganda. John Bolton proved in his role there, and ever since, that he recognizes no other nation's sovereignty of any country, proving by his later advocacy for he wanted to kill the North Korean leader, quote, just like Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Side note, Gaddafi was really targeted because Gaddafi was trying to establish a gold-backed African currency that would challenge the U.S. dollar. But I digress. Bolton has never been afraid to commit to a war, and he has always favored using the bureaucracy to manipulate and achieve his goals, even against the people in charge of him. He said it himself in a sit-down interview saying, quote, ever since I was at the USAID, I studied how the bureaucracy works. Every department has a different culture. Working interagency process successful means knowing everything about all those cultures. It means knowing who will produce a memo, undermining your plan, what that memo will say, and how to make sure its author will fail. Also went on, you have to judge what you want, where the opposition is going to be, where the support for it will be. You must mobilize support and overcome the opposition. That may sound straightforward, but the number of people who go into government and realize this is depressingly low. Sounds awful deep statey to me. And further proof to what he just said, in his own actions, he talked about memos. Here's his memo to Bill Clinton that was also conveniently leaked to the media somehow. Weird, right? Advocating for the overthrow of Saddam Hussein in 1998, signed with some other familiar names. Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense under Bush, James Woosley, former head of the CIA, Bill Kristol, Chief of Staff to VP Dan Quayle, one of Trump's biggest critics, and a bunch of other deep state actors are on that list as well. In 2001, though, Bolton became the Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security Affairs. What does that oversee? Here, from the State Department website. Other specific responsibilities, including directing and coordinating export control policies and policies to prevent missile, nuclear, chemical, biological, and conventional weapons proliferation. Hey, why did they say we went into Iraq? Well, right. The theory of WMDs in Iraq to overthrow Saddam Hussein. John Bolton, in his capacity, in his position, was the one responsible for the origin of the justification of WMDs in Iraq. You think he had any documents pertaining to that stuff too, FBI? Wouldn't be surprised. Most classifications for that stuff is 25 years, and we're getting pretty close to that cutoff. You see how this all adds up? You see why Trump called him a sleazebag today? Pair this one up with Trump purging almost half the National Security Council. Trump is rooting out the worst parts of people in the government, and he's just getting warmed up. This is not a political retribution campaign. This is Trump cleaning out years of unaccountable rogue God complexes in our government. Former Trump attorney and attorney at Judicial Watch, Christina Bobb, the person who received the warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Fantastic new book out right now, Defiant, by the way, all about that warrant. Christina, what do you make of John Bolton?
Well, I applaud the FBI and I applaud the Trump administration for going forward with doing what the American people elected President Trump to do, which is to root out the corruption. We're sick of the lawfare. We're sick of the false criminal charges. We're sick of government bureaucrats like John Bolton who abuse and use their positions to disadvantage the American people to their own personal and political gain. And so I look forward to seeing where this goes, and I hope there are more to follow.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, especially I'm anxiously awaiting your breakdown on this over the next probably week or so as more information comes out, considering you were the one who received the warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. But the other breaking news that came right after that, we're learning about stuff from Maxwell, and the DOJ released the full transcripts, the audio, the whole kit and caboodle, and some of the most jarring things that she says. She doesn't think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
Yeah, it's been a rough week for Dems, and certainly today has been a rough news day for Dems. Again, I applaud the Trump administration for going forward and doing this. I mean, this really was a response to the American people saying, no, we want to know what actually happened with Jeffrey Epstein. And to get this type of transcript from Ghislaine Maxwell, it's a gold mine. I mean, I've spent the last hour and a half going through it, and I'm not even close to being done. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. She's not aware of him working with intelligence communities. Donald Trump never was inappropriate with people. She said he was very professional and kind. And, I mean, it only gets worse for Dems from there. I
know. Well, Maxwell also said that she never saw Trump getting a massage or doing anything bad. Exactly. The transcript actually Todd Blanche asked, did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage? Ghislaine Maxwell says, never. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting and never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
Yeah, so I expect to, cue the liberal tears. We hear them crying about how Ghislaine Maxwell is, whatever, compromised or somewhat, who knows what. But yeah, so we have a lot more information than we had a couple hours ago. I think it's great, and I look forward to seeing what the Trump administration does with it, because I think the American people clearly, if you look at social media, are happy to have the information, and we want more.
Now, I got to ask, though, I mean, look, obviously you and I are staunch supporters of Trump, but at the same time, he's, been vocal about, trying to push this behind him. Is this some sort of tactic to wait to roll this stuff out? What, do you have any insight about why he has dismissed this as much as he has?
I don't. I mean, if you just look at Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony, there wasn't really, at least what I've gone through so far and what, we've seen on social media, there hasn't really been a huge smoking gun of anything yet. There may be something in there, something more to come. It may just be that it's not what we all thought it was. That said, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for trafficking children and underage women, and somebody needs to be, clearly they were trafficked to somebody. So I think the angst that the American people have is they're tired of this two-tier system of justice, of billionaires getting to rape children on an island, and they want to be held accountable. So that aspect is still out there. I don't know what the president's going to do with that. It's a hot potato that's gone from administration to administration to administration, and time ran out on the Trump administration.
And real quick, the other thing is she's obviously appealing her sentence because under Jeffrey Epstein's plea deal, the deal was that they wouldn't prosecute any of his co-conspirators whatsoever. Obviously, she was subsequently prosecuted and then thrown in jail for it. I mean, what she did is dirt baggage. But the other thing is there's significant things that are sealed in her case, including reference to a black book. But she also said in that interview, there's no list. So what is it?
Yeah, well, I think we've all been using the term, the Epstein list, as a nice little summary for who were the people who were paying or exchanging something with Jeffrey Epstein for the purpose of getting access to these young girls. Now, did they have like an actual Rolodex, or a Microsoft Outlook list? Probably not, and I think that's the point she's making. Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't put it together. It doesn't mean there aren't affidavits of people who were involved. So, right.
Christina, spin around, hold up your book real quick. Let me tell you, I may or may not have had a sneak peek at some of this. Awesome book, Defiant. If people don't go get this, they will never know actually how bad the deep state truly is.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Forward by President Trump. This is the official version of what happened at Mar-a-Lago. Everybody needs to read it. I hope that it helps people understand what's going on.
And I'll say, I don't read books. I've actually written more books than I've read. So if I say it's good, you need to go get this book. Christina, Bob, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, a conservative student getting targeted by his teacher. We'll speak to their the student's mother in just a sec. But first, Gavin Newsom has been all over the place when it comes to what his true intentions are with the Palisades reconstruction. I'm going to break that down in a sec. You'll be shocked.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
Because then he came out and said in a tweet that that's not true when people were talking about people buying up the land. Let's read between the lines here. Gavin Newsom is basically forcing everybody who lost their homes in the Palisades fire to sell their land to the government. Let me explain this. He said that, it wasn't a land grab, but that's exactly what this sounds like to me. So how's he doing it? Let me break this down. He just put in place a new rule that if you're going to rebuild your home after it burnt down, and the costs of rebuilding that home are going to be more than 50% of what the house was worth before, you basically need to sell it back to the government. Or you can raise the property 3 to 4 feet to meet the new flooding requirements, which flooding's not a problem because they literally didn't have water in their fire hydrants. This could cost millions of dollars per house. Oh, and if you can't afford that, you can't rebuild. You could list it on the open market, but in order to get approved to do that, it's going to take up to 3 years, which, by the way, you're paying property taxes on this whole time. Not to mention associated fees, but don't worry, the new legislation that they just passed allows for an expedited sale of your property to the G-Man for a reduced amount and quicker. So where does that leave you? Never getting your home back, pretty much. Link Lauren, host of Spot On with Link Lauren. This is exactly what they said they weren't doing, Link.
Well, this is what the Democrats are all about, Carl, and it's great to be with you. They want you to own nothing and be happy. So I'm not shocked by what Gavin Newsom is doing and what's going on in California. This Palisades fire situation has been sketchy since day one. The fire hydrants had no water. Gavin Newsom didn't respond quickly enough. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, was over in Africa. She was in Ghana as people's homes were burning down. So this is another excuse for me to never move to California. And if you're a conservative or a common sense person, it might be time for you to rethink where you're living if you're in California.
Oh, no. Well, you should have been rethinking that like 2 decades ago. But if you're not thinking it now, you are smoking the good stuff. All right, Newsom also saying that he's going to punch Texas Republicans in the mouth for cowering to Trump over redistricting. The last time I checked, first off, if you challenge a Texan to a fight, you better be ready to have one.
No, absolutely. As someone from Dallas, don't start something if you're not ready to finish it. So Gavin Newsom, I don't think anyone is actually scared of Gavin Newsom. I mean, this guy is a beta male who peaked in high school, and now we're all left picking up the pieces. He has no policies. He can't get anything done. He has a failed record. He's running a massive deficit of tens of billions of dollars. So my money in 2028 is going to be on J.D. Vance. Okay, he's a Marine. He's served. I would never put my eggs in Gavin Newsom's basket, but of course he's using this rhetoric to try to be relatable right now.
Yeah, noodle-armed hair gel with the highest deficit, highest unemployment, highest homeless population. Obviously, of course, Olivia Giuliana, who was just fired from the DNC. She was the, let's just say, not calendar girl that was hired to reach out to young men. And I was like, okay, roll this real quick.
I'll tell you this. I might be a Texas Democrat, but I'll have boots down on the ground in California to help get this ballot initiative passed.
Cardio?
Hey, I'm happy that the liberals are getting out and exercising. That's how I felt about the No Kings protest. At least they're out there walking. They're not inside eating ultra-processed foods. Look, the DNC can put boots on the ground for Gavin Newsom all they want. That doesn't erase his horrific track record. And they say 75% of California Democrats want Gavin Newsom to run in 2028. They really support him. 75% of California Democrats can't even define what a man or a woman is. You know what I'm saying? So go put the boots on the ground, but let's see some policies that are actually going to help people, Gavin Newsom. Let's get something done in your state and then think about a national campaign.
And you know, it's funny is like he's not even really well liked in that state. People voted for him because he's a Democrat, but if a better Democrat can't, like, I honestly think Andrew Cuomo could beat him in a race in his home state. And he's launching these ads nationwide that are outrageous. He's got like social media posts. He's trying to sound like Trump and a tough guy. Is there like literally anybody above an IQ of like 49 that believes this stuff?
Here's the thing about President Trump. He has authenticity in spades. You can go back for decades. The man was on Oprah talking about tariffs. He has been the same consistent person. Gavin Newsom and all these Democrats like Kamala Harris, they're a bunch of overgrown theater kids. They're focus grouped to death. There's nothing authentic about them. It's why they can't even do podcasts, because they can't sit there for an hour and talk. So Gavin Newsom, he can try to reinvent and do all of these tweets, trying to be funny and interesting. It's not going to work. Okay, let's focus on your economy, your businesses, your homeless issue in your state, and then you can get on Twitter. But until then, get off Twitter.
Yeah, if these aliens actually do come from that weird vessel, that I'm gonna say, you know what? Just can you take Gavin with you? Link, we appreciate it, my man.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, coming up. Imagine your teacher targeting your kid and humiliating them in front of their peers just because they don't agree with your political views as the parent. We're going to talk to that student's mother next. Imagine your child being singled out because of conservative values, not only by fellow students, but by his own teacher.
My older son's history teacher allowed students to label him a Nazi-phile simply for his interest in history and participation in ROTC. She later nominated my son as the most likely to become a dictator and had his classmates vote on it and try to force him to the front of the class to receive the certificate, which he rightly refused, all because of his conservative values and our perspectives.
A teacher nominated an ROTC student for the, quote, most likely to become a dictator award in Florida, of all places. Where you at, Ron DeSantis? His mother, who spoke at that school board meeting, also said the teacher allowed students to label her son a Nazi-phile. I'd like to bring in that mother. Ma'am, Crystal Marule, I am beside myself, like really beside myself. How did you hold it together?
Well, this did happen a little while ago, and the reason why it came up now is there's just been a history of abuse of conservative families in the school district, and the school district was finally being held accountable in front of the board, the State Board of Educators. And I wanted to take the opportunity to say that it's not just a single incident with this district, but it's a history of a toxic culture that comes from the top down.
Yeah, and what was the response from the school when you brought this up? Like, I mean, obviously it came up now because they're being reviewed, but when you brought this up, what was the response not only from the board there, but also from the teachers? Have you received any apologies? Have there been any people fired over this?
Well, fortunately, the commissioner intervened very quickly, but when this incident happened, I sent an email to the principal, to the teacher, and to the school board. I got no response from the school board, no response from the principal, and only a very hollow apology from the teacher herself.
Yeah, I mean, I understand now that the teacher will face possibly getting her license revoked over this. Can you confirm any of that at this point?
Well, I know what was published in that letter of the investigation, that she'll go before some sort of educational practices committee, and they'll make a determination about sanctions for the behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Crystal, is there anything you would ask for in support from viewers? Is there a way for the people to get involved in your movement, support you at all, and your son?
Absolutely. These things don't happen in a vacuum. This is a toxic culture in Alachua County, and the school board members at the highest really need to be held accountable for allowing this type of abuse to take place, not only in the classroom, but to parents that speak up. The retaliation, just for me having spoken about this, has been unbelievable. They're attacking my son. Teachers, students, community members are coming after my son now because I spoke about this. And this is the environment that's being supported by the school board.
Yeah, one person with courage is a majority, Thomas Jefferson. Crystal, I appreciate you bringing this out, and I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry you had to deal with this, but as a parent myself, I've dealt with the same thing, and good on you.
Well, I appreciate it. I do want to say that I've been working with Kelly Walker and Sam Sorbo from the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance, and they've put forth asking the White House to do an executive order to vindicate parents who have had the local school boards sicked on them by the FBI in Merrick Garland's letter. So there is a movement afoot to get justice for parents and vindication for parents like myself, because these school boards have been emboldened by the highest level of federal officers to come after parents who dissent and disagree with their rule of terror.
It's got to stop. They work for us. Crystal, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and on that note, it's time for a culture clash. Reason number 3,685 why I voted for this administration. The Department of Homeland Security posted this, quote, "Undocumented immigrant is the immigration equivalent of they, them." DHS has no interest in the left's open borders. Alien is the the technical legal term, and that is what DHS will use. Illegal is the only way to correctly describe lawbreakers. Next thing you know, you'll be calling burglars undocumented house guests. Yes, that's what we've been saying here too. Elizabeth Barkahana, attorney at CAGOP delegate, and Tony Kinnett, investigative journalist at the Daily Signal. Joanna, I look at this and I'm like, finally someone's speaking my language in the comms department.
Yes. So the social media accounts for the White House are on fire. They are hilarious, they're entertaining, and they really resonate with the American people, and this is no exception. The left are masters at using language and euphemisms to mask the really dangerous and destructive policies that they are that they're supporting, and this is no exception. In LA, where I live, we've stopped adding a qualifier to the word immigrant when we describe them. We don't say undocumented or documented. We don't say legal or legal. We're just all immigrants. Even if you're not, you're an immigrant.
Right.
And the result of that is what? 2 illegals were given a commercial driver's license in California, and then they ended up killing 3 people in Florida.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
No, it is. Tony, this got me. I saw this yesterday. This is like, speaking of the left and doing dumb things, okay? Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, who we have on this show, she is black and she's a big gun supporter, and she's really ticked off a lot of libs last night at the Arlington School Board meeting over policies for gender-neutral bathrooms because she's a freedom fighter. And look at what the Party of Tolerance brought to that protest. Here's a sign that reads, and I'm quoting here, "Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." And I'm like, okay, is the left repealing the Board versus Brown of Education, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment? I mean, like, where they were the party of slave ownership. This is crazy.
I mean, again, it's really been an ineffective argument for years to say, well, the Democrats are the real racists. But my goodness gracious, when you have the Democrats out on the Senate and the House saying, well, we can't get rid of illegal immigrants, who's going to pick our cotton and clean our hotel rooms? And now you have these goofballs in Virginia going, well, if you won't hang a pride flag, then no blacks for me. It's like, my God, I knew when they were doing their little self-hate lectures saying, well, everyone's racist, even if you say that you aren't. I didn't realize that was an admission that they deeply despise minorities in this country. Goodness gracious. She wrote that poster down and walked out of the House with it. She made several choices, Carl.
Yeah.
All of them bad.
Yeah, all of them bad. And I hope, to be honest, I hope like people realize this, and I hope people put her on blast for it, because that's what they do to anybody else who says something they disagree with. But Elizabeth, this is what happens in Democrat-run cities when people don't respect the mayor who holds back law enforcement. Look at this. Over 100 bikers, you got e-bikes and beach cruisers and motorbikes. They're on a local highway in Boston, stopping traffic, wreaking havoc on the roads. Nobody's doing anything.
Why should they do anything? They're just kids riding bikes, right? No big deal. You know, the homicide rate in Boston at 6 months into 2025 is equal to the number of homicides in the whole year of 2024. Oof. They definitely are having a crime spike. And when I researched for this segment, the Google search results keep saying, but Boston is one of the safest cities in America. They keep telling us that public safety is not an issue, even though we know when we walk out of our houses every single day in big blue cities, it is.
Yeah, but Tony, the other thing too is right now Trump's talking about sending immigration that they're going to flood Boston with ICE agents, and Mayor Wu is like, no, you're not going to do it. She's literally ready to like take to the front lines to block ICE, which is a crime.
Well, you know, like every other rich liberal woman, she'll probably redesign the logo for Boston, make it terrible, and then ruin things even further. Aside from that, Mayor Wu getting out there and cheering and doing a little protest march, pretending that Boston is safe, when we all know that the last place you want to be after 8 p.m. is Worcester, the most crime-ridden staple onto Boston that there could be. So the way that we're going to pretend that she's actually some brave freedom fighter, while meanwhile she can't even keep kids off of the interstate. I mean, it's like suggesting you're a phenomenal parent, but you know, my kid drinks bleach from time to time. It's pathetic.
It really is. Elizabeth, Tony, appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Carl. You too.
Thanks for having us.
An Obama-appointed judge just stopped all future construction and some deconstruction of Alligator Alcatraz to protect the environment. Glad we have our priorities in order. Those details next. Wow, weird. An Obama-appointed federal judge has ordered the partial shutdown of Alligator Alcatraz. Who saw that coming? Judge Kathleen Williams banned Florida from bringing in any new detainees because of sewage discharge. She ruled that Florida must stop expanding the facility, tear down temporary fencing, and remove generators, gas, sewage, and any waste systems within 60 days. But here's the thing. Kind of could have been prevented if someone had done the proper permits in the first place. Look, whoever overlooked, I mean, these government people, they put stuff into control and then they don't do it themselves. They should have gotten the proper sewage management permit. They should fire that person. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is already appealing the ruling, calling out the act.
This was not something that was unexpected. This is a judge that was not going to give us a fair shake. This was preordained. Very much an activist judge that is trying to do policy from the bench. This is not going to deter us.
Yeah, look, a sewage runoff is not the reason to shut down a facility harboring illegal criminals that are hurting Americans. And unless you love illegals like this person apparently does. Tony Katz, host of Tony Katz Today, and Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief at National Review. Rich, this, to me, is one of the most ridiculous, overreaching rulings I've seen since, the $454 million judgment against Trump.
Yeah, and not surprising, though, right? These environmental rules very often used by the left to stop projects they don't like. This is the top of their list because they hate immigration enforcement. And hopefully Florida will prevail on appeal. But the lack of detention space is a major limiting factor on enforcement. You need to be able to detain people and then deport them. In fact, that's what the law says you should do. And we haven't done it, one, because presidents of both parties haven't been motivated enough to do it, but two, we don't have the space. So this was a really important effort in Florida. Thankfully, it's been replicated in a lot of other states, but I hope Florida prevail here.
I imagine they're probably expediting those permits as we speak. But Tony, Canada has announced that they're removing most of their counter tariffs on the 25% on U.S. goods. This is in an effort to, quote, mend their relationship with the U.S. And I'd say that's the right move considering their economy is literally dead. They currently have the lowest private sector employment rate in over 25 years outside of the dip in COVID. The government employment rate, though, is at record 30-year high, and their taxes are at record highs, and they are bleeding businesses.
And this is a great story as a kind of a warning to states, and I want to talk about particularly red states, when they think about not being more proactive about business growth, about tax policy, really about regulatory policy. If we take a look at Canada, ask yourself how much of this is really the tax burden, which I don't disagree is crazy high, and how much of this is the regulatory burden. Go back to what Rich was just talking about with Florida. Of course, this lawsuit was expected. Every time something happens where we can get some progress, like detaining illegal immigrants, there there is a group of people who don't want to see the progress take place, and they utilize the lawfare. The regulatory scheme, just like we're seeing here, is what keeps people from being able to grow, thrive, and survive. Canada is a cautionary tale for all of us.
Rich, I want to get to something that's a little bit weedy, but there's some new developments. So Trump has a plan in the new budget. It hasn't passed yet, but it's a Section 8 plan. Now, these new rules, if passed, would be in the fiscal year 2026. People who are able-bodied adults would not elderly and disabled, would be limited to 2 years of Section 8 housing assistance. This is a remarkable, I mean, you're talking about tens of millions of people.
Yeah. So look, we all should have obviously sympathy for people genuinely struggling, but Section 8, classic federal welfare program with perverse incentives to trap people in poverty. You don't want to earn too much because you're going to lose your housing. Right. And once you get, there's a long list for this housing. Once you're in, you want to stay rather than get off. So it's not supposed to be a permanent condition or a lifetime benefit. You want to cycle people off because they have an incentive to improve their lot in life.
Yeah. Tony, what do you make about this?
This is, I think there's a great difference here in the definitions between conservative and liberals. Liberals view a policy success based on how many people are on it. Conservatives would base the success on how many people get off of it. The idea of these forever programs that we see constantly and consistently, this is what drives American people crazy. We can't stand this, that a program starts and never stops. To the extent that William F. Buckley was the guy talking about these things, yeah. I'll let Rich talk about that. But this is like a fundamental difference between conservatism and liberalism, and it's why I'm a conservative.
Yeah, Rich, but we are talking about the fact that people would be given 60 or 90 days, if it passes, to get out of housing that they may have been in, and they say they're going to start with the people who've been there forever. Look, I think no free rides forever, but to your point, yes, yeah. I mean, this is an incentive.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a program for emergency needs that provides a bridge to getting housing on your own. And when you have housing on your own, one, you feel better about yourself. Two, there are incentives to not to have more room than you need, to earn more than you are now. So you can so housing is a limited part of your income, and you can spend and save money as warranted for other things. But Section 8 cuts in the other way in other directions in so many ways.
Yeah, Tony, I think your point, though, obviously about how many people we get off as a measure of conservatism is brilliant. Tony Katz, Rich Lowry, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, veteran-owned and driven by a mission to fuel your fitness journey, top-tier supplements crafted in America for those who demand the best. Our segment, next. Swole is the goal, size is the prize. If you've been listening to RFK for the last couple months, you probably know our food is not exactly as nutritious as it was before. If you're a high-intensity athlete, you need all the nutrition you can get. I try to maintain that level myself. And it's this week's Made in America, catering to those who demand the best for themselves. Alpha Elite Performance, veteran-owned supplement company made here in America, founded by former Green Beret, specializing in high-quality sports nutrition supplements for military personnel, athletes, and fitness enthusiasts like me. I actually take some of these supplements myself. Retired Green Beret and founder of Alpha Elite, Travis Wilson. Travis, you and I have talked about this before. I've taken some of your stuff, so I can personally say I like it. How did you get going with this?
Well, thanks for having me, Carl. I really appreciate it. Man, I had a near-fatal free-fall accident back in the day when I was still on active duty, and I thought, hey, this is the opportunity that the Army's going to go ahead and medical board me. So that's when the vision came as far as the supplement line. I went to school for exercise science, but honestly managed to stay in the Army for a total of 21 years, but started a supplement company while I was active duty. And here we are 10 years later with Alpha Elite Performance.
You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not a fitness nut and stuff like this. Like, look, my wife stays in shape, but she's not like, she doesn't eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. And I told her, I said something simple like, a scoop of creatine, 3, 4, 5 grams a day will change your world. Never had it crossed her mind. Most women, who work out regularly don't even think of certain things like that. But something as simple as like one of your creatine blends literally changed her entire outlook on how she moderates her entire fitness throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a number of products that can do the exact same thing, like with our ODA Super Greens, which was approved for use by the Special Warfare Center in schools, in that it reduces heavy metals out of the body. That's why we designed it, was to get the heavy metals out of the bodies of our special operations guys and veterans alike. Gut check, we want you to have a good, healthy gut biome. So we've developed gut check so that, hey, you're going to take it at night and you're going to wake up and skladoosh is the word I like to say. It's going to help clean you out. 2 collagen, which everybody needs in our collagen peptides. I take them religiously. I put them in my coffee and I feel great. The joints feel great. Hair, skin, and nails, if you're worried about that. But yeah, we
that's what Travis, that's what I'm worried about is my hair, skin, and nails. That's my top priority when I'm under a bar.
I can tell, man. I can tell.
No, but seriously,
you look good.
Our food is such crap these days. It really is. People don't even take multivitamins. People don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad that we've got Maha going right now. I'm a huge supporter of that. And some of the foods that are out there is as safe as the city of Boston in your last segment. It's pretty bad. So I implore everybody to eat clean and eat as clean as you can. I hunt a lot. I eat what I kill. And we eat a lot of vegetables as well. If you come out to Texas, I'm going to take you on a nilgai hunt so you can go home with a lot of delicious nilgai.
Say when, dude. Bow season is less than a month away here in Connecticut, so I'm super in for that. Real quick, where do people go?
They can go to alphaeliteperformance.com, and they can actually use a code Newsmax, and it'll help them save 15%, or they can go to Mammoth Nation, where we are also on Mammoth Nation as well. But Newsmax will save them 15% at alphaeliteperformance.com.
Snippety dip. I think you're going to have some people there. Travis, we appreciate it. Thank you for your service, brother.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm coming to hunt with you. Trust me. All right, before we go, say goodbye to DEI. The Supreme Court just voted in favor of letting Trump cut DEI funding from a bunch of agencies. Those details next. Weird. Another win for Trump. In a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court gave the Trump administration the green light to terminate $783 million in NIH grants linked to DEI initiatives. Good riddance. Of course, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who can't define what a woman is, quick to criticize the ruling, calling it a Calvin ball jurisprudence. It was a reference to a cartoon where the players make up the rules as they go, but they can't have the same rule more than once. This is unbelievable. She went on to say, Calvin ball is the only one rule. There's no fixed rules. We have seen this too. And this is the woman who talks more than anyone else on the court, yet knows probably the least of anybody. Whatever. It's a win for Trump. DEI is out of there, almost $1 billion. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Greta's next. Stick around.